So let's just say time travel is possible for now. And so what actually happens? So let's imagine this is you, and this is your timeline going along, and then suddenly today you go back in time. So yes, the Back to the Future theory is actually correct, regardless of what anyone else says. And according to whistleblowers, this is how it actually works. However, there are some discrepancies. But what actually happens is you would go back in time, but you wouldn't now be on this timeline. You will start a different timeline, and then that timeline goes along there. Now this timeline from here actually carries on, but it now carries on without you, because you've just gone back in time and ended up on a different timeline. So there's multiple timelines. So this one is carrying on, but it's now missing you. And the reason why I say there's different caveats, I'll explain in the next video. Project Pegasus was a government's attempt at teleportation and time travel, and this happened 50s, 60s, I believe, onwards. And if you look at the time travel thing that I done here, so they're saying that what happens is when you transport back, you end up there. But if you teleport back again, you will end up, so even though you started a new timeline, you can go from there back to where you was, so all these people knew who you was, etc., instead of starting a whole new timeline. Now I can't be 100% sure on that, but that's the way it seems to work. So if you just basically live your life, you will start a whole new one. But if you transport back using time travel, then you jump back onto that timeline, same as you jump off of that timeline by going there. So Project Pegasus was designed to time travel. Now, apparently they had problems with adults going through, so they started to use children, whereas the adults would you come back or not come back at all and die. So they started to use children, apparently, but they didn't send adults through with them, which I find strange, because if the kids died, then they wouldn't get any data on what actually happened. You know, did the kid go back in time and get run over? So I struggle with that part of it. But anyway, one such kid was a guy called Andrew Bashaga, who says he was his dad was part of the program, and he at one point, he went through many times, or a few times, but at one point his dad allowed him to go through on his own, unsupervised, without anyone else knowing. He opened up this time machine, and the kid went back and apparently ended up in Gettysburg when Lincoln was given his address. And that as mentioned before, Andrew D. Bashago says he went back in time. My problem with that is I wouldn't let my kids walk down the local shops. So to let my kid go back, use a time machine that could possibly kill him, go to an era where there's civil unrest, or you know, people could quite easily kill a kid or kidnap a kid, you know, the time of the Gettysburg Address. So this is him talking now. So that's my problem. I just wouldn't let my kid go out of sight, let alone go back in time. I just find that really hard to believe that his dad did that, and then hope that his kid would come back. But here's a bit of him talking.
The teleportation project wasn't at LANL, the Los Alamos National Labs. It was at Sandia. And in fact, I knew that was valid information because the teleport that we were being taken to quantum leap back to the tarmac at Curtis Wright in New Jersey.
If true, then Andrew Basago went back in time and was snapped by a photographer who ended up putting this in the newspaper, and he ended up saying one day that that was him. Now, he's not the only person that we can see back in time. Now, there's this guy here, very compelling, old picture. Apparently, it is correctly dated. You know, he's not been photoshopped, so it's an old picture that they found the original of. And he's got a screen printed t-shirt which didn't come into existence for another 20 odd years before, I think about 20 years after this picture would have been taken. Obviously he's wearing some sort of modern high-tech sunglasses and this haircut and a sort of a jacket thing. So whether or not he is a time traveller, you would think that if they are time travellers they would try and blend in, but maybe they don't. So I don't know on this one. Like, the jury's out. Let me know your thoughts. Okay, who wants to know what deja vu is? Who wants to know what deja vu is? I said that already. Okay, so it's to do with time travel and quantum. So there's a thing called entanglement, which basically means one atom here can affect another atom even in another solar system or in another dimension. And that atom, so for example, you turn this atom off here, it will turn off the other one at exactly the same time. So they're actually entanglement, that's what it's called. So it's basically exactly the same. So if we go back to my drawing here, that's not you. Let's pretend that is not you, but this person goes back in time. Now he or she starts a new timeline. Blah, blah, blah. Your timeline carries on from here, and that person's now missing. But let's just say you don't even know them. You carry on your timeline, but somewhere in here, you was born. Let's say there. You was also probably born there, because that person may not even interfere with you. So you both go along. Now there's two timelines with you in it, and that's where deja vu comes from. Okay, there's this book here called How to Time Travel Through Meditation. I've not actually read it, but I'm guessing it's probably to do with more like remote viewing. Now there is this other theory that goes way back in history, and that is that you can actually talk to yourself in the past. Harder to go forward. I've never heard it been done going forward, but basically what that means is you know, if you've watched my other videos, you know where I'm talking about the spirit. So the spirit is connected to the soul group, and the soul group is connected to everything, you know, ocean, as I've called it before. So everything is connected. And that's how I believe remote viewers work. But you can also, in some sort of meditation state, tell your spirit to go back, because spirits can go forward and backwards in time, and relay a message back to yourself when you was younger. Is anyone creating time travel now? Well, there's people out there, such as John Hutchinson. He's got a few videos on YouTube where he can do some amazing things with frequencies. And as you know, I talk about frequencies. So there's a heavy bowling ball being lifted there. Frequencies can open up doorways, can levitate objects, as I've mentioned before. That's John there. And here's something that he can do with a solid bar of metal or iron. He can melt it and disintegrate it within a few seconds. Now just imagine you had, I don't know, two massive buildings and you wanted to bring them down quite quickly, and you had this high energy beam that could, you know, make it look like these buildings just collapsed on top of each other. That's the technology that can do that. The Mandela Effect. Now that is a name given to an effect where you remember something one way, but apparently it was never that way. So this happened because Nelson Mandela, millions of people thought he'd passed a certain year, and they were convinced. They even remember watching the funeral and everything, and then suddenly they find out, no, he's still alive, and it wasn't. So the same goes for Star Wars here. I watched Star Wars many a time, and he always had a gold leg. Apparently, he never had a gold leg, it was always a silver leg. And when I watched the Star Wars a couple of years ago, when I saw the silver leg walking onto screen with him, I was like, what have they done now? Why have they bothered adding a silver leg after? Because I thought that was just... But apparently he always had a silver leg, and that's not really what I remember at all. But it's not just Star Wars, it's TV shows, it's all sorts of things. This board game here, he had a monocle on my versions that I used to remember, but apparently he never did. The list goes on. Now what is actually happening here is time jumping. This is what I think is actually happening. So you've got a timeline there, which is the black timeline. That's your timeline, happily going along. Star Wars, let's just say, was made about there. But something happens in the past. Someone goes back, changes it. Now there's two timelines now. And Star Wars gets made there. Now there's a thing that may happen, which is time jumping, and I'll explain some more in another video after this. But so basically Star Wars gets made here with a silver leg, but on this timeline, your original timeline, Star Wars got made with two gold legs. Now somehow you here with the silver leg, or we jump from one timeline to another, or they jump from their timeline to ours, just like I mentioned before, and going back on a portal. I know it's kind of hard to grasp, but once they're back on our timeline, they remember the silver leg, or they always remember the gold leg, and I always remember the gold leg. So I'm on this timeline here, but what with things going on, it could be CERN, it could be people going backwards and forwards in time. So I always remember this timeline, but I may now be on this timeline because of people messing around with the timelines. I don't know how all that works. Maybe it's CERN creating multiple universes on this, but that's, I think, how it works, because you've got you're going back to the quantum angle of it. You've got the entanglement where if there's one atom here, there could be another atom identical somewhere else, and in somewhere else in the universe, and that could be you and you. So you're remembering one thing and they're remembering a different thing. Let me tell you a time travel story. So this couple would pass this diner on their way to work and on their way back. Not this particular diner, I'm just using it as an example. And they'd passed it thousands of times, and sometimes they even went in there and had food. Now one day they was driving past and it was gone. No building work, no nothing. It just looked like it was never there. And they couldn't figure out how quick that got demolished. You know, it was only like a day before. So they went round asking people, and people said it was never there. And I was like, well, of course it was there. We had food there. Then they went to the government and they looked up the maps and everything, and it was never there, ever there. So what's happened is they've jumped, going back to the previous video that I've done, they have jumped timelines, not intentionally, but somehow they're now on a different timeline where this was never there. Free will and your future. So spirits can look backwards, forwards, into the future. How many times have we heard people asking spirits, you know, oh, am I going to meet the right man or the right woman, or, you know, what's going to happen? Am I going to find a job in the future? And that's because, you know, on Ouija boards they reply back. So yes, they can see past, present and future, which goes back to the old Christmas tale. But the question then is, if they can see the future, do we have free will? The answer is yes and no. We did have free will when the first incarnation of us went round once, so they can see to the end of the universe. So we have been round once, and that's happened once. The first time we had free will. Now we've not got free will. It's already happened, and it's going to happen again. However, when someone goes back in time and changes it, it goes to a different timeline. So sometimes the spirits can't actually see what happens because it's on a different line. Someone asked if I could do a couple more of the Mandela Effects. So everyone remembers this guy here from the original Karate Kid movies. Everyone remembers his bandana. That's what I remember. However, that's actually what it was. Yeah, I kind of remembered it red, but now it's black, and it's apparently always been black, and according to Ralph Macchio, it was always black. So go figure on that one. Now this one I have watched Back to the Future, and I'm not kidding you, over 100 times. Absolutely not kidding you. Now this scene here where Strickland, he goes very close to his nose. He never touched, never ever touched. Now watch. He bloody bumps it. I mean, that's a lawsuit right there. I've never seen him touch it. I know it goes so close. It used to go so close. I used to watch it and think, oh, if he touched him, you know, Michael J. Fox would have a case to smack him. But now what do you think? So just some more Mandela Effects. So what do you remember? We'll just go through them quickly. Towel or no towel? Apparently it's not what you think. The Flintstones or Flynn Stones. Fruit of the Loom. The different pictures there. One with a thing at the back. I'm not quite sure what that was. Looney Tunes, how it's spelt. Kit Kat had the little dot in the centre, or does it? What do you remember? Pikachu with a black towel. We done the Star Wars. We know he had a monocle. We're sure he had a monocle. Some of these American, so Coca-Cola with the dot and without the dot. Fruit Loops or Fruit Loops. Again, Americans, we don't know. Ford, did it have that little squiggle or didn't it? Sex in the City, who remembers it? Who remembers in the city? Yeah, it's one of those Mandela effects. I remember in the city. What do you remember? Now this one freaks me because I remember aeroplanes used to have the engine underneath the wing, pretty much literally just like that. However, going back and even watching the old aeroplane footage when I was, passenger looking out the window, I've now got a freaking engine that sticks halfway out the front. It's crazy. Which doesn't normally happen. I mean, look at that. I don't know if it's just me, but it used to be further back. Now it's literally sticking out from the front. Now, who remembers this? Yes, we know. We have to bring this one up.
I am your father.
So he says, Luke, I am your father, or does he say, no, I am your father? What do you remember? So these Mandela effects are quite funky. There's a really good story. I'll tell you the story on the next one. But what do you think? Interesting, apparently true story. A lady lived in a block of flats, and every morning she would drive past a road. And one day that road was no longer there and all blocked up and everything. And again, she went round and asked people, so was that the Mandela Effect, or did she cross over a timeline? Speaking of Mandela Effect, there's a film out. I've watched it. It's not too bad. I mean, if you're uninitiated to what the Mandela Effect is, watch the film. I mean, it's got a 5-something rating. But it's not a bad film, and it will help you understand where we're coming from with the Mandela Effect. So yeah, go watch it. Cattle mutilations. I have to be careful not to show any graphic pictures. I don't want to be banned or blocked. But who thinks, I mean, hopefully you know what cattle mutilations is, but who thinks that it's done by military? Who thinks that the military haven't got their own cattle and decide to fly around the world, sometimes, mostly, to be honest, mostly at night, land their helicopter, because obviously it had to be done by helicopters because the gates are still locked and there's no visible signs of people walking in and out. Who thinks that it's the military that land there, do some sort of operations on certain cows, kill them, drain the blood somehow without one drop being spilt, and then fly off? Okay, if you believe that, then please don't watch the rest of these videos. Okay, so we know it's not the military. So there's a little picture up there. It gives you a clue where I'm coming from and where eyewitnesses are coming from. Okay, some background information on cattle mutilation. So if you're interested and I don't cover enough for you, suggest getting this book, Black Ops Alien Spirits, Bigfoot and Our Untold History, available on Amazon. Highly recommend it as well. It's on Kindle and Amazon. So it's not always cows that get mutilated. It could be horses, it could be deers, it could be cats, and I'll go into that later. It can also be humans, which I'll go into later. Now, the general thing that actually happens to them is their eyes, ears, udders, anus, and sex organs and tongues are removed, and sometimes the skin around the jaws removed. Now, this is done surgically with what appears to be lasers as opposed to a knife, because autopsies say that it must have been done with some sort of laser. Cattle mutilations first were reported around 17th century, so that rules out the American military as we know it now, going around in helicopters doing it. So let me explain what actually happens. So it's generally at night. A UFO will fly over, pick up a certain animal that it's got marked that it wants to pick up, picks it up in its laser beam, light beam, takes it on board. Now the animal's still alive at this point and still conscious. It's paralysed, can't move, and we know this from eyewitnesses who've also been abducted at the same time and have stood next to these cows where they can't move, and then there's pipes coming from the cow taking the blood, which explains why there's never any blood when you find a cattle mutilation. They actually take the blood, and I'll explain later why. So then they do the operation, and then they beam this thing back down to earth. Farmers who have lost many cattle to cattle mutilations, alien cattle mutilations, set up cameras. Many of them have, and they cannot capture the UFO doing it. They have seen it with their own eyes. They've seen the beam dragging this cow along if the UFO's on the ground, or being sucked up into the air if it's in the air, but they can't capture it. Now I'll just explain why they can't capture it, because we've got the technology now to look for spy cameras, and they light up like a light. So if you shone this device around your room and there's a hidden camera, it will shine like a light back. And they've obviously got the technology to know where their cameras are, so that's one of the reasons why you can't find them. When an animal is sent back down to Earth from the ship, it actually has crushed bones on the side that it hits the ground. Cattle mutilations cost the industry millions, and some farmers have actually gone bust because of the amount of cattle that's been abducted and mutilated and died. Now, what happens is, before they get mutilated, they're actually taken aboard. In other words, a previous time, could be a month, could be 2 months, I don't know. But a craft will come along, pick up the cow, and do some bits to it, inject it with various things. Now, to be honest, I don't know what they do to it, but I know they do this. And then they send it back down, and they send it back down while it's alive. So here's a video here of showing a cow coming through the roof when the alien beam tries to send it back down. Watch, I'll try and play it a couple of times. And there it is, poor cow, and that's still alive. So that poor cow will eventually be picked back up. I'll just play it one more time. Will be picked up again and finally mutilated, whereas this time I'm still talking about cattle mutilations, but this time I'm now explaining what they do with the parts that they harvest. Now, they take the blood. Blood is really important to them. They take the blood plasma, and the reason for that is the little greys, it's possible the tall greys as well, I do not know, but I know the little greys have been seen ingesting blood plasma through their skin. In other words, that's how they eat. They don't actually have teeth like we do, and their mouths are absolutely tiny, so they survive off of blood plasma. And guess where that comes from? Not just cows, but other animals. And this next video I'm going to show you is going to scare you, because there was a series of cat mutilations in Croydon in England. Police tried to make it sound like it was a man, but these were happening simultaneous. So I'll cover that in the next video. What do I think the cattle mutilations actually are for? Well, I've mentioned what the blood, I believe, is for, but the other parts of the bodies that they take, I think it's to do with them, first of all, taking the creature and implanting it with things that will eventually grow over time. It could be a month, could be a year, I'm not sure. So it's sort of basically using the cattle as an incubator. And then when the time is ready, they come and harvest the bits that they've already done to the animal. So now whatever it was has grown, or it could be a virus, it could be creatures, tiny little creatures, I don't know. But whatever it is, they come back and take at a later date. So unfortunately there's no record to say when a particular animal was picked up first and then mutilated the second time, so there's no time, so we don't know how long it takes. I was right, it was the Americans taking the items from Iraq, the Sumerian tablets, etc. They've offered to return them, so ISIS didn't do it. Along with cattle mutilations, there was a series of cat mutilations in 2014. Now, cat mutilations happen all over the world, but there was a spate of them. Over 400 cats were taken, mutilated, and when I say mutilated, they were surgically mutilated with precision, some sort of laser type tool that defies sort of our explanation of someone going along picking them up. Now, some of these actually happened at the same time around Croydon, so it wasn't just one person, if it was one person, but we know it wasn't. Now, there are cat killers out there, people that actually kill cats, like this one recently in Brighton who was captured on CCTV, but there was never any CCTV footage of these 400 cats ever, and some of them got returned back in the same place a week later, which is kind of weird. The police, after 3 years, decided it was foxes that were surgically removing parts of their organs that you can't even get to without proper tools. human mutilations, just like cattle mutilations do happen. If you're interested in this, the best place to see uncensored research is richplanet.net. Just type in Rich Planet human mutilation, and then click on the first video, first link, and then it brings up a video, and there's, I think, 3 parts to this video, and they're about 40 minutes each. He does a fantastic job. So just giving you one example, a couple went missing, finally were found in their car, mutilated, with parts of their face surgically removed and things like that, eyeballs gone. So obviously some alien has taken them, done whatever they needed to do to them, and returned both of the people back, which is kind of scary. He covers all of this. So don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, just in case I get taken down on TikTok. And also I do live chats on there. You can watch the whole video. I just want to play a quick clip from a series called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, or The Curse of Skinwalker Ranch, depending which country you're in. Can't praise this program highly enough. They've already done 2 seasons. Fantastic if you're interested in any of this kind of stuff. So basically they have security cameras around Skinwalker Ranch. They had cattle. All the cattle run off except for one.
Here.
And this cow here is now lying on the ground. And above it is a UFO.
It looks like an object above the tree.
So what happens then, I don't want to spoil it, but what happens is basically the cow dies. They get autopsy and stuff done, but they can't figure out what's wrong with it. They put the body, there was no mutilation, so maybe it got caught, it saw that the UFO saw that the camera's there or whatever, but they moved the body to the other end of the ranch, expecting coyotes to eat it, etc. A year later, nothing touched it, not even beetles. Listen to my voice and I will hypnotize you. Well, not really, I'll probably just put you to sleep. But this guy here has been hypnotized. He's just about to talk, and he has, at this point, he'd seen some mutilated cattle, and then him and his brothers look up and they see this basically UFO coming towards them. Then it hovers, and I'm just going to play you the next bit.
Changed from a pure white to an orange. I said, Mark, son, it's picking up a cow. I said, yeah, hear that cow?
So basically the UFO picks up the cow. This is on a video on YouTube called Strange Mutilations. I think it's actually originally called Strange Harvest by Linda Moulton Howe, but you can find it on YouTube. It's a couple of hours long. Very, very worth watching. Something interesting on where we find mutilated cattle. Now, I know I've said it's all over the world, and it is. But when you look whereabouts, so for example, this is the United States. This is called the 37th parallel, and the cattle seem to be mostly taken from this line here around the globe. And I say globe, not flat Earth. So that's the cattle, but it's not just the cattle. This is showing UFO reports over the same area. So as you see, the UFOs have been using these sort of lines to travel backwards and forwards. Instead of going this way, they seem to always, not always, but mostly go this way or that way back, instead of up or down or ziggy-zaggy. So you've got to then wonder what the reason is for that. Is it to do with ley lines? I don't know. All the armies around the world, the secret ones, do not need to come and take a cow to mutilate, but they do have secret bunkers doing secret things, such as, and this is just a small list, animal-human crossbreeding, cloning humans, atomic manipulation, advanced mind control, brain memory recognition in humans, human brain transfer, yeah, they're doing that, human brain acquisition, research the human aura, auric energy fields of humans, astral out-of-body manipulation, and voyaging, where they spy on things, PSI research, audio-visual, which is wiretapping, but with visual as well, and matter exploit and manipulate. Now, they didn't mention time travel there, and that's probably because CERN does that kind of stuff. While talking about secret bases, Denver Airport was built. Now, they already had a Denver Airport, but they decided to build another one. And this one's surrounded by conspiracy theories, such as the amount of dirt that was taken away from underground didn't equate to the amount of dirt that was actually supposed to be taken away for an airport. In other words, they was using the airport as a cover so that they could dig this massive, literally a city underneath Denver Airport. Now, the reason why there's more conspiracies is there's things like this gargoyle, there's these alien posters up there, there's these Nazi type murals, there's the, we all know what that symbol is, don't we? The Masons, and the list goes on about different things that, you know, makes it really a conspiracy. Have a look into it yourselves, it's fascinating. Okay, your guess. Now, is this a real giant? I mean, he's absolutely huge. Yes, he has got sort of a deformed shape to him, and obviously he can't wear normal clothes because he's massive. But look at the height of this thing. It's I wouldn't even want to guess. 20, 25 foot. Now, this is in Japan. So you tell me what you think. Now, you can find this video online, so you can scrutinise it. What do you think? I have watched these videos and I've gone through them frame by frame, and there's telltale signs. Look at the woman looking up there at him. So unless there was something else in the background and he was replaced, but I think it's actual genuine. I do think that character was real, and that size. Looking at all the video, there's a lot more to it than this. Conspiracy theories with Jesse Ventura, no relation to Ace Ventura. Now, Jesse Ventura was a Green Beret, if I'm not mistaken, and then he moved into wrestling, American wrestling, then became a senator. He was doing these series called Conspiracy with Jesse Ventura around 2010, 11, 12, that sort of time. But he talked about the Denver Airport, which I mentioned in the last video, but he also dealt with many other subjects, such as 9/11, and what's actually going on now. You can watch these videos on dailymotion.com. So what's going on now, you know, in the world where we're all being told to do certain things, and I don't want to say it on this video, but and then there's an end result. He knew about this. People actually spoke to him, so you can watch the videos back then, and they explained exactly what's going on. So if you're interested in this, I strongly suggest you dig these videos out. Okay, they're coming, but not yet. So let's talk about group manifestation. So what that basically means is, you remember Uri Geller would say, come to the screen and all concentrate. And you all concentrated and a watch got fixed by magic. Technically it wasn't magic. So the power of prayer isn't really prayer as in, you know, you're asking for help off of someone else. It's a group activity that your consciousness can actually affect things and manifest things. So that's why you know, people pray for rain. So you're not asking God to do it. You are actually all contributing to the power of manifestation, and you can manifest things. And one of them's quite scary. I'll tell you in the next video. Something that people don't actually equate to manifestation is luck. They just think it's luck. But manifestation also works with the power of positivity. So even though you're not sitting there praying, you are positive, and it attracts positive back, as you've probably heard before. Negative attracts negative. So by being positive, you are putting out manifestations that you can't actually quantify yourself. So in other words, you may win something, but you don't know how you won it, or so that's the good luck, but that's you projecting that out there. So manifestations work in many different ways. I must just mention fridge door alarm. Yeah, there it goes again, that time again. Available on eBay. Brilliant little product. It'll notify you that you've left your fridge door open, which does happen. I've done it before and thrown food away. So yeah, it's only $12.99. So it's... Oi, hey, wait, did you create that man? So this man is apparently Slender Man. Now, Slender Man was a fictional character created for a competition, I believe. And then people would add to that, such as, add into a story. So he likes to hide in the shadows. He's tall. He's slim. He likes to kidnap people. He does this. He does that. And over time, the amount of people that were contributing to this story ended up possibly manifesting this actual creature into existence, because there's people out there that didn't know anything about Slender Man, that have gone to the police and described Slender Man to the police, only to find out later on that is the description of this Slender Man. So did a group of people with the power of intent manifest a figure that comes and goes from manifestation? Okay, you're going to have to bear with me on this one. So this is something that I'd thought of 30 odd years ago, showing my age. Now, in my sleep, I come up with, and it wasn't me, it was just given to me. Sometimes I have these thoughts. And the thought that came to me was, everything that we know about the world and everything has a top, bottom and two sides. Right down to the smallest atom, it will still have a top, bottom and two sides. The only thing that doesn't have a top, bottom and two sides that we're aware of is the universe. Because as soon as you put a side or top to the universe, then you've got to ask yourself what's outside that universe, and then what's outside that, and so on. So that night, it came to me that the universe is like our mind. You can sit there and think of a road, and it will never be ending. You can just keep going and going until you die. So is the universe a memory? Not a memory, but a manifestation of a brain thought. Now, some other people since then, obviously the internet wasn't around when I first come up with that idea, but other people have now sort of said the same sort of thing, that the universe kind of looks like a brain. I don't know whether it looks like a brain or not, but the pathways to a brain that's what they're trying to say. The neuro pathways resemble the same sort of thing. I wouldn't have said that that's like that, but it doesn't. I don't know. I still think there's a possibility that it could be never ending, and it could be just a thought, a simple thought, just one thought that created this universe. In which case, if that is the case, then I'm still talking about manifestation. What's to say that our thoughts don't create things? So in other words, that thought that created the universe possibly could have been another creature, or whatever it could be, just thought the universe into existence. Just like we can close our eyes and think of a red dot, and it's there. And that'll stay there forever until you die. You may not be able to recall it, just as you can't recall what happened to you when you was 5 years old, but it's still there. And is that the same as a universe? Is the universe a thought that's still there? Your thoughts on that? I'd love to know your thoughts on my thoughts. Thanks. Right, just following on about the giant in Japan video. Now, people were saying that it was from a movie, so let's just have a look here. Let's use logic, okay? So, first of all, they say that this guy now is suddenly smaller than he was. Now, to get him in the actual shot, he would probably be kneeling, or they were on a stage, because there's a cameraman right there. So, if you know anything about anything, and I do, this guy would have to be further back if that guy was standing straight up, if they weren't on a table or anything. So look at the proportions of this character, yeah? He's obviously got issues, just as most of the people with giantism have. I'm not saying he's got giantism, but he has some issues. His hands are smaller and his proportions are wrong. Now, they say that it was from a film, and this is the film, wait for it. So that's a real guy. When you have a look properly at the proper quality of the footage, that's a real face. This is the film. Now, you tell me. That's CGI straight away. So what I think's happened is they found this old footage of a giant and they've made a film around it. It's like me finding a picture, video footage of Elvis and sticking it in my film and saying it's from a film. No, it was shot before, but I've just used it in my film. See, so let's look at logic. Would the Japanese want to give their hero in the movie tiny little arms and tiny little hands compared to a weird deformed neck? No, they wouldn't. They've only done that because of the footage that they've already seen. Do you get what I'm saying? They would have had some perfectly shaped He-Man. They wouldn't have had some deformed, slightly large guy that's not either, is a cross between a sumo and a bodybuilder. Someone's a bit not right. So clearly then you can see that this is CGI. The other one looks real. Now there's this other guy here on his own channel that says he debunks things. I don't know what his name is. Bill's channel. And he says that his friends say it's fake. Literally, that's it. I'll just put the...
And research by a Japanese media expert, and a wide variety
his friend.
of professional visual effects artists.
Right, so show us proof, yeah? Show us proof. Show us proof.
Okay, now...
They don't show us proof. They don't show us proof. It's just a letter from his mates saying they think it's fake. Now, this is a guy that debunks stuff, apparently, so why is he showing... why is he not showing where the cuts are, where the rotoscoping is? Does he even know what that means? Do you see what I mean? I know more than he does, so I think he's not great at his job. What do you think? Okay, so imagine this story as a film. So there's a planet out there, and there's a ruling elite that rule pretty much the whole planet. They own the media and things like that. And one day those elite want to try and hurt, kill, whatever, the population on that planet. So using the manifestation things that I've been talking about, the planet, the people, all concentrate and all pray, use the word pray, but all think at night that they want the elite to, disappear. And then, as by luck or manifestation, whatever you want to call it, the elite disappear and the whole planet's saved. What do you think of that idea? I mean, obviously it wouldn't happen here. We wouldn't have 1% elite ruling all of us. But what do you think of the idea of a film for that? Wink, wink. Scary black-eyed children. I'm going to do a couple of stories over the next couple of videos, and then I'll talk about them in more depth. So, story one: a guy living in America, I know, had a knock at the door. He gets up, starts to walk to the door, and fear, absolute fear, comes over him. Doesn't know, pure panic. He opens the door anyway, because obviously it could be someone he knows. And then there's these two children, not these ones, I'm just using this as an example, but two children with pure black eyes. And they ask to come in the house. He's petrified. He says no. He slams the door. He walks away, and he just couldn't get their faces out of his head because there's no white bits in their eyes. He opens the door again. So this is after about 5 seconds. He just had to look, and they were gone, completely gone. Supposedly a true story. Couple in America, pull over at a petrol station, and it's sort of a rural-ish petrol station, and they've got a little boy of their own sitting in the back seat. The couple get out, go and pay and whatnot. And when they come back, there's another little boy sitting in the back seat alongside their boy. Now this new boy has absolute black eyes, pure black, no whites to him whatsoever. They try and get the little boy out. 5-10 minutes, he wouldn't get out of the car, so they decide the best thing to do is drive to the nearest police station. So they keep driving and driving and driving, and they get to the police station, and they get out, they go into the police station, they come back, and apparently the little boy had got out of the car and just vanished, nowhere to be seen. Who are the black-eyed children? Well, they've got some characteristics which we'll go through. The first one is they scare people, not intentionally, but even just by being near them, you will become petrified. And not just so petrified, but you even do silly things like go back and open the door to see if they're there. Your mind's just out of whack. Including the couple that I mentioned in the last video, However, their child that was in the back with the black-eyed child wasn't scared, but the parents were. So the other characteristic is they disappear. So literally out of sight, bang, they're gone. You know, you can't find them for love nor money. So where do they go? And they're always children. So sort of between 6 and 16. So the question is, who are they and where do they come from? Where do they go? So my thoughts are, I'll tell you in the next video. Please like and subscribe. Black-eyed children asked to come in. They're asked to come in your car, in your house. They won't enter unless you allow them. You have to give them permission. They talk in a monosyllabic tone, mostly, and they seem to appear in at least, you know, a pair of them. There's not too many groups, and there's not too many stories of singles, but they seem to come in a pair. Now, I think that these children, I don't know if you can hear that silly motorbike person who probably thinks he's cool, but we all know he's not. So I think they are hybrids. So you know when a human gets abducted by the little greys and experimented, and then they go through a pregnancy and then the aliens come and take them away, and sometimes they get shown the parents, you know, get beamed up and show their kid that's now 5 or 6 years old. I think it's so the black-eyed children, I think, are hybrids. Now I think they may somehow not escape but walk away or leave the confines of the Greys ship, and then they go walking, or they find out how to beam down, and that's how they disappear. And I think they've been told that humans are not allowed to be contacted. You know, they can't force their will on us. In other words, they can't just break into our house, so they ask. So I think they've been sort of taught various disciplines and not politeness, but they have to be allowed to do things. And I think the reason why they scare people is they probably have the same telepathic powers as the little greys do, and they don't know how to control it. So I think when people walk up to them, go near them, they are petrified because the kids don't have control over the Contrails are condensation left by aeroplanes. Chemtrails is a chemical that's produced inside an aeroplane and pumped out over the planet. So all governments around the world use chemtrails, as far as I'm aware, and they spray this chemical out. Now, what's in the chemical is another story, but here's a picture of what an actual chemtrail plane looks like. It's basically full of chemicals, and here's what you'll see. There's, I mean, it's not really a conspiracy anymore. They do these certain patterns, zigzag crosses and stuff, when they're spraying out this chemtrails. So totally different to a comtrail. You don't have comtrails doing that. So you'll hear people saying that these chemtrails are not real and they're just condensation from aeroplanes, but yeah, look at this picture. This is chemtrails, and I'll explain what. So I can't really say what I think, because this channel will probably be pulled off straight away because it does the things that I think that the chemtrails are actually also part of what's going on now around the world. So I can't say. Sorry. Mermaids. Yes, I'm going there. Mermaids. Okay, so this was brought over from Fiji to the UK in around 1842. And they debunked it by saying that it's a head of a monkey and a tail of a fish. So if you know anything about or watching any of my videos now, you know that if one person says it's debunked, everyone believes that. But what they didn't say is how the top half matched the bottom half in terms of the age of it and how long it had been in water, and how it matched the top half. You know, that whoever built this, if it was fake, would have had to have submerged it for a long time to be able to get the both of these to the correct thing, because as you see, it's all part of one. So was it actually debunked, or was it just someone saying it looks like? You see where I'm going with this? I'll talk more. Yes, sea-dwelling land lovers. So this is a map that was dated around the 1500s, and it shows a mermaid. So the question you've got to ask yourself is, what made them draw a mermaid? Now, this is not the only one. Now, it's holding something that looks like a UFO. Whether that's got any relevance, I do not know. So you've got to ask yourself now, all these maps over the years where they've drawn giant squids, and yes, we now know there is such a thing as a giant squid, and it can take down ships. That's proven. So giant squids existed, and they drew them in maps. So are these mermaids in these maps genuine? Now, there's a guy called Emery Smith who says that mermaids do actually exist, and I will tell you more about that in a sec. Emery Smith, I've mentioned him in some of my other videos. So he apparently works on dead aliens as well as mermaids. So in an interview with I think it was George Norrie on Coast to Coast, he explains that he's worked on an amphibian species that lives underwater, that has 2 arms and is pretty much a mermaid. He describes the creature. I won't bore you, but he can, if you want to listen to his thing, it's on, you'll probably be able to find it on YouTube, the Coast to Coast episode. And he's also got his own channel called Disclosure, I think, on YouTube. He says a lot of stuff, knows a lot. He's not actually, from what I understand, he doesn't work for the government. He works as an independent biologist type person. So, but do listen to him. He's got a lot to say. Some of it I agree with. Okay, I'm going to go back round and start from the beginning. So I'm going to start from life on Earth. Now, this is Ayers Rock in Australia, mate. And it's 2 miles wide and 3 miles deep. Goes down quite big. Now, the locals there say that it's was sent from the Pleiades by the serpent spirit, the rainbow serpent spirit, and that it had life attached to it, and when it landed, obviously the life spread all over Earth. Now, that's the name for that is called Panspermia. Now, if that's the case, I wouldn't say that it was just one particular place on Earth, because, as you know, life, I think, probably was seeded. If an alien race deliberately seeded us, they would have done it in more than just one location, because if it didn't work there, then it would have been game over. So if Ayers Rock has anything to do with it, then that's how it came here. Now, bacteria would have had to have survived on the rock before it hit Earth. Now, NASA's doing some tests called Tanpopo, probably pronounced wrong, but basically they're saying how long can bacteria survive, and what they found is that if you have a few layers of bacteria, the top layers die off, but the ones underneath can survive at least for 8 years. So I'm just going to have to, because I'm going back round, I have to do my usual watch this.
Have you ever left the fridge door open and wasted food? You can now attach this small fridge door alarm to your fridge or freezer door. You can choose a setting for how long you want to wait before it beeps. It starts low, then gets louder the longer the door is open. It also works with these type of fridge freezers by placing it on top of the door. To find out more, visit fridgedooralarm.com or buy it on eBay.
Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to go back round. I might take a little bit more time to do these. Like I said before, I'll do them as 3-minute versions. So if you're happy and you know it, please leave comments. As we found out before, that I get virtually no views if no one leaves comments, and I think I'm probably also slightly shadow banned for saying some things that people don't want to hear. So if you want to help and support me, just set, on it, virtually every video. I know it sounds bad, but if you wouldn't mind just putting a little message on there, that would help, and then it makes me feel like I'm appreciated, and I'll go back around and fill in some of the stuff that you guys have been probably dying to find out. So here we go again. Thanks. In 2003, a T-Rex leg bone was found, and what made this different was that it still had soft tissue, which is normally fossilized. So they dated the bone to be 75 million years old because, hey, that's when T-Rexes walked the earth. So there's a mismatch there. You've got soft tissue that shouldn't survive that long, and yet T-Rexes, as far as mainstream's concerned, lived 75 million years ago. So you guess where I'm going with this. So what if that T-Rex isn't as old as they think it is? Let's just say it's 3,000 years old. That would explain the soft tissue. And as I've mentioned before in previous videos, dinosaur bones and dinosaur footprints, etc., coexisted with man around 3,000 plus years ago. So if it's not Panspermia that created life on Earth, and I'm not saying it is or isn't, the next option would be God. And here's a picture of God, white man, white beard. Yes, that's because the Anunnaki, who were gods, their name as a race was Elohim, and that's why it's written down. And they had white hair, white beard, which is why you've got that picture there. But let's assume that there is the creation God, because obviously when people talk about God, they're not really talking about the Anunnaki, because they don't really, religious people don't really understand the Anunnaki, and they don't really want to know. They just want to see that there's a divine being that will give them miracles, and they pray to him, etc. So let's forget the Anunnaki for a second.
Someone has sent you a WhatsApp.
Sorry about that message. Let's forget about the Anunnaki and let's pretend that there's a creation or a source of some sort. And I'm not saying there isn't, but let's go with that for a moment. Now, I was just reading a post about someone that said about the double you-know-what that's being put in people's arms at the moment. And they wrote, "I'm a proud sheep, the Lord is my shepherd." And they put Lord as in capital. So that made me think, well, hang on a minute, this person's clearly praying that the Lord will look after them. Let's just have a look whether the Lord has looked after anyone in the last decade. This is just a decade of wars. Now, if anyone can point out any miracles that the Lord may have saved any of these people, that would have thousands and thousands, millions of people died in the last 100 years. If someone just points out one of these, if you say, "Oh yeah, no, that was a miracle, they all got saved," no, they're all dead, unfortunately. And then that goes on to the pandemics as well, Black Death, Spanish flu. There was no saviour. So I know I'm probably going to get hated for this, but just lose logic. There is no saviour that's going to save anyone, even from the stuff that's going on right now. You know, that person that wrote "The Lord is my saviour," and he's a proud sheep. It's not going to happen. It would have happened before for all these poor people that have died. Look, death tolls. There are no miracles. So once people start realising that the God, unfortunately, there may be a creation, but it wasn't the one that's done it in 7 days or 6 days and had a rest, because the Book of Enoch, which is prior to the Bible by thousands of years, actually said the Anunnaki came down, catalogued various things throughout 6 days, you know, the plants and the animals, and on the 7th day they rested. That is where the Bible got it from. Unfortunately, we're on our own. We need to, start taking ownership of our own lives. Dinosaurs and man. Well, apparently Genesis, the book of Genesis, said that Noah's Ark actually had some dinosaurs on it. I've spoken before about the footprints, which to me, is real proof that at the same time humans walked on the same mud before it eventually became rock, as dinosaurs, and the footprints are the same age as dinosaur footprints. But something you may not know, because this isn't said a lot, back in 1971, they found some dinosaur bones in rock alongside human bones. In fact, there was a family of 4 people, human bones alongside dinosaur bones. They don't really tell you this in mainstream news, obviously. The dinosaurs are supposed to be 140 million years old, but yet they're found with humans, which we know didn't come into existence until a lot later than 140 million years old.